Love is all. Richard was standing in signal in his expensive bike, waiting for the green signal, and he was very urged to reach home. Signal changed from red to green. He was the first person to move from that place in very high speed. His speedometer reading showed 102 speed, and within 5 minutes, he was in front of his big bungalow with a big lawn in front of the house. Main gate was closed when he was standing outside. He was continuously horning and waiting for the watchman to open the gate. When watchman heard the sound, dropped the tea glass he was drinking and ran over to the gate to open it in a hurry. Gate opened. He went straight inside and parked the bike in porch. Front door was opened already, and he went inside the house with his shoes on. He dropped his college bag on sofa and his bike key in the wooden table that was right in front of sofa. Andrew, his cousin brother shortly called Andy by his relatives, playing video games, who was Richard uncle's son, who is 12 years younger than Richard, but he was too close with Richard and he used to call him Richard in short, and Richard loved the childish accent. Andy dropped the video game down at the moment he saw Richard, ran towards him and planted a strong kiss on his cheeks. Richard brought his head forward. His forehead touched Andy's forehead and they were dashing each other in love. Richard's dad was big businessman, well educated, running steel factory, exporting spices, schools, and had got 50 acres of agricultural land in his hometown Kerala, and undoubtedly he was a big shot and also a genuine person. The combo of rich as well as genuine comes rare to a person, and he was gifted with that quality. Richard, back from college. We were waiting for you, thank God. You came a little early than usual. Come on, Richard. Get ready soon, we're going out. His mother voice from kitchen. Richard. Where? I'm tired. You and Dad carry on. I'm not coming. Mother. There is an association meeting in our colony and your dad is chief guest. Actually, I promised those association people that we come as a family and honor the function. You have to come. No excuse today. Richard. Oh God. Is Andy coming with us? Mother. Yes. He already got ready and was waiting for your arrival. Richard pulled Andy's cheeks playfully and said I'll get ready in 10 minutes in a playful tone. You know, I'm coming only for you. Andy said, I know, Richard. Because you love me more than anyone. After 20 minutes, the entire family got ready and on their way to the marriage hall, which was just 2 streets away from their house. They reached there in just 4 minutes and parked their BMW in the parking lot. At the time they arrived, it was 5:55 p.m. and they came 5 minutes earlier to the association meeting. Richard's family sat on the stage and his father was about to give a speech. The association members were not that much interested in his speech. They were only interested in one lakh check donation at the end of his speech. Richard was so bored and was playing with Andy. It was the first time he saw her. A girl in white anarkali cotton salwar, tall, fair, slim and so beautiful that he was not able to take his eyes off from her. She was sitting in the second row with her parents. She was not listening to the speech, though it was boring to hear such speeches in her age. She got up from her chair and went outside to breathe fresh air. The next second, without any thought, Richard got up from his chair and chased her. She was standing in the open space, looking out the garden. Suddenly she heard an enthusiastic voice behind her. Richard was humming his own lyrics in tune. Actually, he was singing suddenly composed lyrics. Hey angel, 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 so beautiful in white salwar, watching flowers, plants which is less beautiful than her eyes. He was singing with little smile in his voice. To impress her, she suddenly turned around, gave a mindless look at him. He started the conversation in hurry. Richard, it's so hot inside, so just came out for fresh air. By the way, I'm Richard. She again turned towards the garden, symbolically saying she was not interested to talk. She was pretending that she was not interested but smiled inside. Richard called her White Angel, playfully. In a second she turned at him and said in a low voice with small smile on her lips, "Hey mister, I'm not White Angel. I'm just Richard." "Oh, Dapper. You got a beautiful name just like your face." He was literally flirting with her, and she also realized his flirting. They both continuously talking for 20 minutes without knowing they have been talking for 20 minutes. "Richard, where do you live, Dapper?" "Dapper, 1 street away from here. Indira Apartments, 1st floor. What about you?" "Richard, just 2 streets away from your place. Not very far. So we can meet up regularly." "Dapper, regularly? For what?" "My parents are very strict. They don't like talking to boys." "Richard, oh, I see. But I like taking to girls. We're just friends, right? What's the problem being friends?" Dapper smiled at him. Without giving answer, she was about to move from that place. Before she moved, he stopped her, asking for her mobile number. "Dapper, no, I don't have mobile phone. It's restricted in our college. So Dad didn't get me one since we are having landline connection at home." Before he asks landline no. In well advance she told him that don't ask me for landline no. I can't give you. My ma would suspect me talking to a boy and she never let me to take a call. She always picks the call first and give it to me if the call was from my girlfriends. Richard was not disappointed. His mind voice saying, when it comes to love, there are thousands of ways to communicate with their lover. They both said their byes and parted away. At night, before sleeping, Depa had a habit of praying, and that day prayer was, Richard was good, funny, handsome. I think I like him, God. I'm desiring to meet him again. Please, God, make us a next meeting very soon. She ended the prayer and went to sleep dreaming about him. The next morning, she was all day thinking about Richard in college, and she was smiling on her own, rewinding the each and every word they spoke yesterday. She was impatient and waiting to see him soon. The day was Richard Day for her. Evening, she got down from the college bus. While crossing the road, she saw Richard standing near a big neem tree in his bike, wearing blue denim shirt and blue jeans. She thought he looked stylish. As she went near him, he started his usual pranks at her. Richard. Hey Miss White Angel. You come this way daily. Dad. Oh ha. So you don't know this is the only way to my home? Richard. No, not at all. I just came this way to see this big neem tree. This tree is my friend, you know. And one thing. Don't dream yourself that I came here to see you and longing to see you. In a second. The next dialogue from Richard was, actually I came to see only you. Depa smiled at his pranks and said, oh my goodness. I think I like you, Richard. Richard. Deep. You think. But I confirmed that. I'm in love with you. Richard was nervous for the first time in his life and looked at her lips to move positively. She was astonished by his sudden proposal, but at the same time very happy inside. She smiled and looked down, nodded her head and said in a very low tone, same here. Richard's face was filled with so much of joy, raised his two arms, jumped out in happiness as if he had won the one-day cricket match. So, then what? Love started between them, and exchanging love letters through Andy-Richard's cousin. Their love letters are full of love, everyday happenings, his likes, her likes, his dislike, her dislikes, kisses, hugs, favorite foods, movie. Film stars Rajinikanth was favorite for both of them, they talk about musics. He addressed her darling, dear, white angel, sometimes deep. She called him rich, Mr. Flirt, honey. One of the love letter was their meeting points. Temples, silent streets, under shaded tree, parks, They set up each meeting point just to avoid suspicion. The days were heaven for both of them. Within 3 months, they had exchanged 50 love letters, and both never gets tired of writing love letters because the person who never knows how to write a letter even writes a love letter better because it's the most interesting things in world. One never needs to think. Just the words flow from the heart. Richard waiting for their pack in one of the silent streets under a tree. That's their favorite spot. Their meeting time is 5:30 p.m. every Saturday. She came there at 5:45 p.m. in a light yellow kaftan and blue jeans. She was stunning as always, even in simple dresses. ****. Hey Rich. Sorry, I'm late. ***Richard***. Oh. That's not a problem. You'll look beautiful like an angel today. Derpa smiles and her cheeks turned to pink. She was actually blushing and said him, I love you honey. So much. You are the world to me. Richard touches her palm, playing with her fingers, and pulled her close to him, and he was romancing her in an open street. Rich. I'm actually little worried. What if our parents didn't accept for a marriage? What if your mom and dad force you to marry some other girl? Richard, just to pull her legs, said, then he will be my keep. Derpa in anger. Though she knows he is pulling her legs, said, and you are cheap, mister. Richard Johnson, Richard Heap. Keep. Cheap. Where? What a rhyming. They both laughed at each other, and their 30 minutes time was over. Again they were back to their homes. Richard was in his final year B. Com, and Derpa is in her second year BA. English Literature. Only 2 months left for Richard to complete his degree. His father forces him to go abroad for higher studies. -1 YRMBA in financial management science. He was their only son, and they wanted him to look after their family business. Richard had no other option, and he said Derpa about this higher studies plan of his father. And she was totally upset after hearing this and cried to him, this separation is too long. Richard consoled her by saying, we can chat through internet. He said, every Sunday you come to the nearby internet center and we can chat regularly. After 4 months, Richard was in London for his studies, and every Sunday since Richard left, Derpa used to lie her mom that she was going to her friend's house for studying, but she goes to the internet center to chat with him. They both chat for 1 they feel time is running so fast, and they wanted to chat continuously. Derpa completed her studies, and her dad started to see alliance for her. One evening, Claire told her parents that she was in love with someone and asked them to stop seeing alliance. It was a big shock for her parents, and her mom yelled at her, beated her with the broomstick. Claire was crying and fell down on the floor. Claire's was middle-class family. Her father works at bank as an assistant manager and mother was an housewife. She was the only daughter to them. 2 days later, they were inquiring about the guy's details: caste, religion, their status. Claire said, he is a Christian and his father is a big businessman and they live in the same colony 2 streets away from our house. She said everything about Richard to her parents. Again, it's a shock for them that the guy's religion was Christianity and we're Hindu, and also they are very rich people. Her father went to Claire's room while she was sitting in the corner of the room near window, looking out aimlessly. Suddenly she felt life is hell and lost all the hope. Her father advised her to forget that guy since there is total contrast between our family and theirs. He said, this is not going to happen, just forget it and move on. She thought in frustration and pain, where to move on. You people move on from your egos. Here's my life. Without him, life is nothing for me. She closed her eyes in pain and she maintained silence and never uttered a word. Later her dad left her room in fumings. Next 3 months, Claire was not allowed to go anywhere alone. Her mother accompanied her all the time when she goes out. She missed her favorite Sunday internet chat for 3 months. Richard was totally confused about Claire's missing and he missed Claire's face, smiles, her words, everything. 1 month later, Richard completed his MBA and returned to India. All his family went to airport to receive him. Richard missed Andy too. After reaching home, the first thing he did was pass a letter to her through Andy, asking her to come to the meeting point. Andy delivered the letter when her mother was out to the temple and left Claire alone at home. Claire hurried to the meeting spot. She saw Richard from distance was standing with his same bike. She walked fastly and hugged Richard and kissed him. He gave her a wrapped gift and 1 box of foreign chocolates to her. She opened the gift box and surprised to see the wedding ring, and she hugged him for the second time. Later she said what has happened in these 3 months and all the difficulties that her parents said no to her love, and she was so depressed, no idea what to do next. Richard said to her that, I miss you so much, darling. Realize that how much was I'm in love with you. No matter what. I'm not going to leave you for anything or for anybody. 1 week later, they both got married at register office and exchanged the rings before their friends. After marriage, Richard took her to his house and courageously stood in front of his father. His father was completely gone out of the mind after seeing them. He came near him in full anger and slapped him for not telling his love and married without their acceptance. He called girl's family to his house and they all standing in the living room. Everyone was in total upset except Richard, Dipper and little Andy, but Richard silently romancing his wife and she pushes him away with her little finger. She was very nervous and ashamed to look her mom and dad. She looked down and stood silently. Richard's father took a deep breath. He thought for a moment. What has happened is happened and it's no use to worry now. He said himself, letitbe and be in a letgo state. He felt everything was God's play. Later he broke the silence and said I can't digest and accept this girl as my daughter-in-law. It's impossible for me. 10 seconds later he said, rather she is like a daughter to me, and your daughter ismy. Daughter andweare family now. Everyone in the room was shocked by his words. Dipper's parents got surprised after hearing these and they blessed their daughter and returned happily to their house. 1 week later, a newly married couple is in the flight, sitting next to each other. He called her Mrs. Richard heartedly and also playfully. She smiled and rested her head in his arm, smiling at each other. On their way to Maldives for honeymoon. The end. Thank you for watching.